Before we get into the first encounter, we are going to have to take a route through the Leviathan, so follow where I go in the gameplay and you should get there with no problems. Now that we're at the first encounter, you don't actually need any loadouts, as this isn't really a real encounter, so to speak. The only thing you do need to do here, however, is assign numbers 1 to 6 to each player. You can do this via the roster if you would like, or you can just have everyone pick a number. In front of you there will be a plate which when stepped on will make another plate appear in front of it. Your job as a team is to make a path using these plates so you can reach the platform. However, you can't have more than one person on a plate at the same time, so you're essentially just playing follow the leader with your team. So when you're ready, have number 1 jump on the plate. Another plate will then appear which number 1 will jump to, and number 2 will then jump onto the plate that number 1 was just on. You can kinda see where I'm going with this. Just make sure that nobody steps on the same plate at the same time, or they will cause all of the plates to plummet into the water. Once you see the text prompt reactor temperature rises, you can just run to the platform. These next set of plates will actually be split into two sides, being left and right. Start with number 1 jumping onto the right plate and number 2 on the left plate. From there, have the rest of the team take it in turns jumping on based on their numbers. Eventually you'll reach this part with a plate in the middle, so have the right side take over from here until they raise enough plates up that the whole team can just run to the end and make it to the platform. Just make sure you get the reactor temp text prompt. For the next platform, have your team go ahead as usual. However, once number 4 reaches this position that you see in the gameplay here, have them split off to the left. Numbers 5 and 6 will now follow number 4, and number 4 will wait for 1, 2 and 3 to go ahead before he continues moving. Just like before, if it's confusing for you to understand, just sit there and analyze it for a few seconds until you understand it. And once again, if enough of the plates are up and you get the text prompt, you can run to the platform. For the last set of plates, these work the same way as the first set, meaning you don't need to split anyone up. The only difference here is that the plates are a lot more trickier in the order they appear, making it crucial that everyone is paying attention to what they're doing. This is a great time to weed out the slackers in the fire team. But yeah, just make sure that you are always jumping on the plate that the person in front of you has just jumped on. I really cannot stress this enough. And once your team is able to make it to the final platform, you can finally begin the first real encounter of the raid lair. Once you reach this area, you'll have to defeat a bunch of CABAL in order to continue, and while it's definitely not needed, I'm going to give you guys some loadouts. I'd recommend a rapid fire shotgun, a primary of your choice, and a Thunderlord LMG. But like I said, you definitely don't need a loadout set up for this part, so feel free to use whatever makes you comfortable. And as for teams, I would recommend splitting into 2 teams of 3 and positioning yourselves on the left and right sides of the room. The rest is pretty much self-explanatory, just kill the CABAL until they stop spawning and you receive your chest. You can now move on to the piston room. There will be 2 giant pistons that will slam into the wall and cause an electric blast, killing anyone who is not in cover. You can protect yourself from the blast by standing behind these little walls throughout the room. Follow where I go in the gameplay to get this done as quick as possible. Now that you have made it out of the piston room, you'll be approaching a long cannon. Have your team stand inside of it to be shot out into the atmosphere, where you will be descending rapidly. There will be a bunch of rocks and debris you will need to dodge on your way down. However, you want to pay attention to these rings. There will be 7 of them with a red inner ring which when passed through will turn blue. Turning all 7 rings blue will reward you with a secret chest. Now moving on to Argos, we're going to assign 2 teams of 3, the defenders and the runners. Now have each defender pick a plate to defend, solar, arc, or void, and the same goes with the runners. We're also going to assign some loadouts. I would recommend a primary weapon of your choice, a rapid fire shotgun or fusion rifle if you would prefer it, and an LMG of your choice. It's also a good idea to make your chosen weapons void, as you will encounter minotaurs with void shields throughout the encounter, and while supers are useful for this part, they're certainly not required, so for that reason we won't be assigning any super loadouts just yet. To the left of each plate will be a Vex cranium. This cranium belongs to the runner on that specific plate, so make sure everyone knows where their cranium is. When the encounter starts, one of the sides of Argos in the middle will show 3 mines. The defender from that side should locate and call out the elements of the mines when they appear. Depending on what elements are needed for the mines, the runners should take their craniums to the corresponding plates and place them in the little furnace. The craniums will make a noise and stop flaming when ready, at which point the runner can take the cranium to the mine. They will then shoot at the mine until it explodes to disarm it. Any leftover ammo can be used on enemies or another mine of the same element. Just make sure you pay attention to the aura and noise emitting from the mines, because if left armed for too long they will explode and wipe you. In the event that a certain element is not needed, it's still a good idea to cook one in the event that the next mine requires one, as it's completely possible that one set of mines could use 3 of the same element. There are 6 sets of 3 mines, making for a total of 18 mines you will need to disarm. However, once all of them have been disarmed, you can collect your chest from the void plate and move on to phase 2 of the boss fight. For phase 2 of Argos, keep the same teams as phase 1, and for loadouts, a primary weapon of your choice, a rapid fire shotgun or fusion rifle, and a Whisper of the Worm, Sleeper Simulant or Thunderlord, but I'd highly recommend Whisper. And for our super loadouts, have the hunters run Orpheus Rig Tether for adds, or they can run Golden Gun with Celestial Nighthawk for DPS. However, it's usually a good idea to have at least one tether and the rest Golden Gun. Have the Warlocks run Well of Radiance with Lunar Faction Boots, but make sure that if your team uses Whisper, the Warlock does not use Lunar Factions, as it will not let you proc the White Nail perk. And finally, have the Titans on hammers for ad clearing. They can also run a Rally Barricade in the event that you do not have a Warlock. Phase 2 works very similar to Phase 1 when it comes to the craniums and cooking them, however this time we won't be disarming mines. Instead, on one of the sides there will be 3 elemental orbs that will all need to be shot at the same time to enter damage phase. And just like the mines, there is no limit to the amount of elements these orbs will take up. So just like before, pick up the craniums and have the defender on the side of the orbs call out their elements. Begin charging the required elements, and as before, feel free to cook some extra elements for the next set of orbs, assuming that you don't one-phase him. Once all of the elements are ready, have the runners pick them up and head to the side with the orbs. In the event that there are more than one of the same element, make sure you make it clear with your teammates who is shooting what orb. When all of you are ready, count down from 3 and shoot at the orbs at the same time. The orbs will move towards the center and you will have to follow them with the beam until they reach it. Failing to do so will cause the orbs to reset and you will miss out on the damage phase. However, once started, you can begin your damage on Argos. Argos's crit spot is the glowing red orb on his head. During damage phase, a few things will be happening. Firstly, you will have a bunch of ads spawning, so make sure that the ad clearers such as the tether or the hammers is ready to deal with them. Secondly, you will have these explosive harpies that will fly towards your team. They hit very hard, so they should be killed as soon as possible so that they do not reach you. And lastly, Argos will fire out a net which if hit by will trap you and carry you into the air. Whoever is hit by the net should yell out net and have the teammates immediately shoot at them to free them. Not doing so will cause that player to die. Now it is possible to one-phase Argos, but in the event that you do not, he will make a series of platforms appear around him. This is Argos's wipe mechanic. Have your team jump jump onto the platforms and all head to one of his sides. There will be these glowing white spots that your team will need to kill in order to stop him from wiping you. He has 6 of them, being 2 on his head, back and arms, but you only need to disable 2 of them to prevent the wipe mechanic. It's a good idea to have your team focus fire on his head and then attack his arm. You can also shoot at his purple cannons to disable them. Just be aware that once you have destroyed Argos's weak spots, they will not spawn back, meaning you will need to head to a different side during your next damage phase. And in the event that you have shot all 6 of his weak spots and still have not killed him, well, unfortunately for you, that's a wipe. Now, once you have disabled 2 of his weak spots, you'll essentially be repeating the encounter's mechanics until Argos is killed and the raid is completed. Callus will take you to your chest where you can pick up your loot, and you can now start celebrating as you have just beaten the Eater of Worlds raid in Destiny 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below what you want me to do next. We also just reached 1,000 subs, so thank you guys so much for your support. It really means a lot. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.